as the Faggot. An extraordinary machine. It's like a little bullet piercing the sky. What you're about to see is a Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-15. What a stunning sight that is. Doesn't it take your breath away? It's like something out of Dan Dare. It just comes out of nowhere. Am I showing my age now? You don't remember Dan Dare, do you? From
Southport, Dan Dare.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right out of that period of early development of jet fighters. And of course, when we have what we regard as enemy fighters, and that is why Kenneth Ogvila, who owns and flies this aircraft here today, embedded it within the Norwegian Historical Association because of their closeness to the then Soviet border and their involvement in that Cold War era. Again, he treats it very gently, takes up a lot of sky. Of course, these early jets didn't have the design performance of the modern jets we see today.
Here he is.
Fantastic, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic. I love it to bits. It's just so different, and I say, for me, it's a spooky thing. One of the most successful swept-wing jet fighters achieved fame in the skies, would you believe, over Korea? And here we are in hosting the Korean Air Force here today as well. Early in the war, it outclassed all straight-wing enemy fighters in most applications. Believed to have been the most widely produced jet aircraft ever made. In excess of 12,000 were manufactured, and then another 6,000, making a total in the region of 18,000 were licensed, produced away, but within the Soviet Union. Often mentioned along with the North American F-86 Sabre as the best fighter aircraft of the Korean War and among the best fighter aircraft of all time. Remained in service for many, many years. Lovely big guy. Ken is flying this. He been flying, had an interest in aviation right at a very young teenage age, flew solo at the age of 15 and logged several hundred hours on that before joining the military, where he accumulated another several thousand hours training people as forward air controllers, and then went on to Scandinavian Airlines flying all series of the Boeing 737. After which he then set up the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron. I think have seen his Vampires here some years ago, a pair of aircraft he helped commemorate RF 100 with, and putting it through a lovely slow roll as we go through that. And just enjoys the classic jets as much as he does any other aircraft. One of the few to be current now in the world on a MiG-15. It's a great passion for aerobatics as well. He used to fly a Yak-52. And interesting enough, this aircraft, you may recall, for those who've perhaps seen it in other areas, was painted and dedicated to a famous cosmonaut, the first one in space, Yuri Gagarin, and it flew under the red 15 configuration. But you eagle-eyed spotters there and cameraman will note that it is in a new colour scheme for this year, and that is all to do with its connection with the Korean War. In many ways a great shame we don't have a Sea Fury here today as well, as we're hosting the Korean Air Force, because the Sea Fury was one of the very few piston-powered aircraft to ever shoot down a jet aircraft, and this was one that they did shoot down, a MiG-15. But going back to the colour scheme, Ken, giving its close association during that period with the F-86 Sabre, has put it the colours not just of the operating squadron, but also a pilot that were also involved in the early days of the space race, although he didn't go into space himself, the well-known Chuck Yeager. Because an aircraft was captured as a result of an incident in September 1953, when a MiG-15 was flown from the north of Korea down to an air base in the south, and was surrendered, both the aircraft and the pilot. And as a result of that, the MiG-15 went back to the States and undertook a lot of different flight testing, amongst them in the hands of Chuck Yeager himself, and evaluating both, and they very much agreed what a match it was for the F-86, but actually, given the foibles of each aircraft, it was really down to the handling skills of the pilot to have made the most of the combat. We spent 11 days testing the MiG-15, and although it lacks, unsurprisingly, the technological sophistication of American aircraft such as the F-86, and they found it pretty uncontrollable when it got to very close to breaking the sound barrier around about Mach 0.98. But it did have a faster climb rate and also operated at higher altitudes than the F-86 as well. But nonetheless, as they concluded, the pilots very much making the most of it. Currently on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force, the original that is, not this one. This one, of course, as I mentioned, owned and operated by the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron. The engine itself, they were never that proficient, of course, in that day, so fairly rudimentary. Itself a development of Rolls-Royce Neen and Derwent's engines. So giving it a speed of around about 0.92 Mach, at around just under 6,000 pounds of thrust. But this one renamed as the Klimov under Soviet production. Making a final pass now, very sadly. It happens all too quickly, doesn't it? Ken has just called up to say that's about it. His endurance is up and over. So do give him a lovely send-off, another farewell fly past from Ken. I'm actually going to see him in Norway in a month's time, and I'll pass on your best wishes here from Southport. Kenneth Outvila in the MiG-15.